Good morning. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Carrie Dillard. I'm the Programs and Public Policy Director here at the Chamber. We're so happy that you came for our first seminar as part of our Small Business Month celebration. We have a host of seminars in May and June with various topics including government contracts, social media for small businesses, information security. But today, we're going to talk about programs offered by the West Kentucky Workforce Board that help small businesses. And Mary Ann Medlock, she is the Business Services Liaison for the Purchase region with the West Kentucky Workforce Board, and she's going to lead this panel discussion. But before we start, I need to thank today's sponsors. These programs would not be possible without the generosity of our sponsors, and these two particular businesses have been sponsors of the Small Business Seminar Series for I don't even know how many years. So thank you so much to F&B Bank and Lundberg Medical Imaging for that sponsorship. And I want to invite Ike Nichols and Terry Lundberg, who represent those businesses, to come and make a few comments. Ike, would you like to start first?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Ike Nichols with F&B Bank. Thank you for coming this morning. We certainly appreciate everyone taking time out of their morning to attend. I want to give thanks to Sandra, Terry, and Chamber. As Terry mentioned, this is several years now. I guess we've sponsored, F&B is sponsored. So F&B is a community bank. We certainly understand the importance of small businesses in our community and the success needed to thrive and do well in the community is very important. So we want to make sure we provide those tools, and hopefully this seminar helps to do that in a way. So thank you again. Please mark your calendars for remaining 4 seminars that are coming up with this series, and hopefully you can attend all those and get some good information. So thank you again. Have a good rest of the day.
Good morning, Terry with Lundberg Medical Imaging. We have sponsored this, thank you for the opportunity, for several years now because small business is something that is very important to us. It's the lifeblood of our community. Lundberg Medical Imaging is a full-service radiology center. For those of you not familiar with it, I want to give you an analogy to kind of understand a little bit of the healthcare world. If you were on the banks of the Ohio River and you wanted to go from Kentucky to Illinois, and you wanted to take a boat ride, there are 2 boats there. There's a little fast speedboat, and there's a big cruise ship. They both cross the river, so you can get the ticket on the speedboat, or you can get the ticket on the cruise ship. The cruise ship has beds and a cafeteria and lots of apartments. The speedboat, all it does is one thing. That's us. All we do is one thing. We get across the river and offer radiology services. We've been doing that since 1968. So we are an independent small business, just like yourself. We're laser focused on what we do, so we try to do that with excellence. And thank you for being here today. We appreciate you investing your time to help make your business stronger, to help make our community stronger.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Ike. These two businesses absolutely do represent excellence in our community, in their business and their community partnerships with various organizations, including the Chamber. So again, thank you to F&B Bank and thank you to Lundberg Medical Imaging. We are going to be recording these seminars all month long, and they will be available on our YouTube channel, on our website, and we'll be sharing them every Monday in our e-news. So if you know of another small business owner who wasn't able to attend today that would benefit from this discussion, please feel free to forward those along. Or if you yourself are unable to attend later this month but want to hear one of the other seminar topic discussion, please look for those on PaducahChamber.org. I'm going to turn it over to Mary Ann now, who's going to introduce our small business panel.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? So I don't know about you all, but my cat woke me up at 4:30 this morning. He was supposed to wake me up at 5, but he can't quite tell time yet. So we're going to have a good morning this morning. Sir, do you want to join at the table? That way you can see everyone. We'd love to have you join us. Not to point you out or embarrass you or anything, but come on, join us at the table. So I am Mary Ann Medlock. I am the Business Services Liaison for the Purchase region. The West Kentucky Workforce Board is an organization funded with U.S. Department of Labor dollars that come down through the state. We are charged with serving employers and job seekers, and we do that through a variety of means. I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you. I don't have my glasses on either, so I didn't recognize you. That's fun. So we do a variety of different things. We're going to talk about that today, but I think it's really important when small business folks can talk to each other. So if I've invited some friends along to help tell this story, okay? Because while I used to own a small business back in the 90s, it's been a while. And there is a language, and there is an understanding, and there is a trust. I never want to put myself out there as, hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Okay? Because I can't always offer a solution, but I always generally try to find some kind of service. So I'd like to introduce my friends. First to start with is Latoya Burton. She's with the Housing Authority of Paducah, and we'll hear her story in just a minute. We have Chris Hill with IHM Used Parts, and we have Rachel Jett with Jet Mechanical Services. So they'll give you their stories in a few minutes and kind of tell you about how we got connected. I've asked them not to tell you where we met because, well, I met Chris over beer at Tech on Tap one night. So anyway, so good morning. Thank you for being with us. Feel free to raise your hand, ask a question, shout it out, whatever, because I want to make sure that you leave here today with an understanding of what is available. Federal programs are never easy to access. There's always little caveats. There's always a checklist or always a misstep that can happen. I work really hard to try to make sure that doesn't happen because especially small business owners, you've got 1,000 things on your plate. So most importantly, I just want to introduce these programs, let them talk, and then ask for questions. So the West Kentucky Workforce Board, we're one of 10 workforce boards located in Kentucky. It is a federal program. Every state, every county is connected to a workforce board. We have the Brownish area. We serve 17 counties of western Kentucky. We go from the coal fields of Muhlenberg County to the cotton fields of Fulton County and everything in between. We work with 2 career centers that are located in our area, the Kentucky Career Centers. The Paducah Career Center is just located right over there. And that's where we connect with job seekers. It's also where we connect with employers if they call and say, hey, we have a job. Will you please post it for us? We also have one in Hopkinsville, and then we have what's called a satellite office in Madisonville. Ironically, I grew up in Madisonville, and I often get the Purchase and the Pennyroyal confused because I'm a true West Kentucky girl because, I've lived everywhere in Western Kentucky, and I feel like every place is home. I do a wide variety of things. I work with local governments. I work with economic development, chambers of commerce, school districts, employers. Anybody call me, I'm going to help them. I'm going to try to connect them in some way. But some of the things that I do is with job listings, and these are 3 that I've done in the last few weeks. As you know, there is a worker shortage going on, and there are lots of jobs to fill, and employers often need help getting their message out. So I help them through, if they want, I'll help them with some social media pieces. I'll do these various ads. I also connect to about 40 other workforce programs that are funded through federal, state, or local agencies to help be able to promote their positions. The gentleman holding the box, that particular ad came through because we were actually moving offices. During the Briggs and Stratton plant closure, we opened a temporary center there in Murray to help transition those workers into new employment. And we called Kentucky Lake Moving and Storage to move our furniture back to Hopkinsville. And they called the next week and went, what do y'all do? And so I explained what we did. And they went, well, I've got a couple of jobs that I really need help filling. And I said, well, how are you promoting them? I tell my buddies, it's on my personal Facebook page. We ask our workers to refer someone. We really don't have a strategy. And it's like, well, let me just do a little ad for you. So we put this ad out, and their slogan was, we make moving simple. And so I said, what do you really need to know before you interview someone. And they're like, well, really? We just need them to call us. And it's like, okay, so you don't need them to fill out an application? No, we'll do that while they're here. Perfect. You make jobs easy. You make finding a job easy. You make going to work for you easy. So we did that. We make moving simple. That's why our application process is simple with no pre-app or resumes needed. With one click, you can email or call us. And so I had the hot links from that Facebook ad. The next week, they hired 3 people. 2 of them are still with them, and that was a year ago. A lot of times it's removing barriers for employers to find workers. And sometimes it's just put a Facebook ad out there so people can see it. That way, if you're not friends with the small business owner, you see it. Then we also helped Dexter Alma Water District, and we helped Genova on a regular basis. They were doing open interviews, and they just needed an extra voice giving the times and information about their open interviews. So that's one thing that I do. My claim to fame is I help employers connect to federal resources, okay, federal dollars that we can invest into your companies. And we're going to talk about the examples of what they look like. That's why my friends are here today. So most of the things that I do all day long is I write what's called on-the-job training contracts. That's where you are recruiting employees, you select some employees to interview, and then you get down to the final candidates. And you're trying to decide who you want to hire. But you also want to see if any of them are going to qualify for any federal programs, because there are lots of different programs. My buddy Chris Bright here, he works and represents veterans. We have Phyllis, she works with individuals who are coming out of recovery. We have Anissa, who's working with a different type of job seekers. And if I have any other partners at the table that I don't recognize, it's because I don't have glasses on. But we work with a lot of different job seekers. So we try to make sure that you can connect with that. It might be there's a tax credit that you might not know about that you need to file within the first 28 days of employment if they're a veteran, or if they are on public assistance, or if they've been incarcerated, or. There's also federal bonds that you can access. You're hiring someone, but they might have a record, or they might give you an idea. You might get a feeling that you can't quite trust them yet. So the state will give you an insurance bond of $5,000 to cover any loss if something happens while they're employed. So we try to watch for all those things. But with on-the-job training, I need you to provide me the name of the individual and the phone number, and we will call them and talk to them about their current employment situation. Are they currently employed? Are they self-sufficiently employed? Are they making at least $14 an hour? Are they drawing unemployment insurance? We try to get an idea on what they've done for the last 6 months. What's their employment situation? And from there, we can determine whether or not they are eligible for the Work, Innovation, and Opportunity Act, which is the federal act that funds our program. If they do meet eligibility, then I will work with you to make sure that you, as an employer, are eligible to receive federal dollars. There's some great questions I have to ask you about whether you're debarred from working with a federal agency or if there's a strike out front. But typically, the employer is eligible, and generally, the job seeker is eligible, and we complete that eligibility, and then they start working once we tell you, we've got all the paperwork done, they're ready to go to work. It takes about 3 or 4 days, unless you call me on a Thursday afternoon. Then it takes a little bit longer. But we try to get that eligibility complete and get them to work. And with on-the-job training, they are your employee. You pay them a minimum of $12 an hour with a maximum of $19.25. And why $19.25? It's because that's the average hourly wage earned in this region. And that's what the feds say we have to do. And you also have to provide them benefits. With all that, we reimburse you 50% of their wages every month. At the end of every month, I send you an email. I ask you for the pay stubs and the timesheets. You send those to me. I calculate it. And based on the contract we've written, I reimburse you half of their hourly wage. And 30 days later, you get a check. Easy peasy. Simple program, little paperwork. Okay? How often does a government program offer that? The other program, so with on-the-job training, what you're doing, you're training them for the specific skills you're hiring them for. Okay? You've hired them because they have the skills, they have work aptitude, and you're hiring them to train them for a position. With paid work experience, you are agreeing to be a worksite mentor. You're agreeing to fill a position with someone you've selected. Okay, same thing. You recruit, you interview, and then you send me the contact information. We determine eligibility. But rather than being your employee that you're paying, the Workforce Board pays 100% of their wages during 360 hours of employment, and they are on our workers' comp. The difference between an OJT and a paid work experience is you're teaching them work aptitude. Okay? You're taking them on to teach them how to be successful in a workplace. There's a few skills you're teaching them, but primarily you're teaching them and mentoring them and coaching them through the process of showing up on time, communicating with you and coworkers, what to wear, and how to be successful on the job. Because an individual in a paid work experience may not have ever had a job. They may have never worked in your type of business environment. So you're teaching them how to be successful, and they're going to decide whether it's for them or it's not. And you're going to decide if it's for you or not. But you're teaching them work aptitude. Now, does that make the difference between a paid work experience and on-the-job training? Clear as mud? Okay. So you find me through a lot of different ways. You find me at a chamber workshop. You find me working out in the community. You find me at Tech on Tap. You find me at different places and we connect. And a lot of times we start a relationship long before I can ever work and be a part of your workforce challenge. Because sometimes you just kind of have to think it through. Well, how can I use these programs? How can I do these things? But I'm eager to talk with each of you about how we can be a part of the solution that you have. So let's hear from my good friends here who have gone through this and work with me on a daily, weekly basis. So I'm going to start with LaToya. So LaToya, if you will introduce yourself and what you do at the Housing Authority, and then pass it to Chris, so that way everybody gets an idea of what you all do.
Good morning, everyone. They told me to project loudly, so is this okay? Yes. As you mentioned, LaToya Burton. I'm the HR director for the Housing Authority of Paducah. Been here in Paducah for 5 years. Been in HR probably almost 20, and yes, I'm only 21. Served in the military for 6 years and work for the Housing Authority currently. So that's Toya.
Good morning, everybody. Unfortunately, I've got allergies right now real bad, so my voice is terrible. Good morning. My name is Chris Hill with IHM Used Parts. What we do is basically we're a Caterpillar bulldozer junkyard. So we're just down the road, halfway between Mayfield and Paducah. And so we've been doing this for about 38 years at this point. And, it's been very good working with Mary Ann for the workforce thing. So it's really been good for us. We've had used it twice, I think, at this point. One I'm doing right now. So here's Rachel.
Morning, my name is Rachel Jett. I'm with Jett Specialty and Jett's Mechanical. We are a full-service HVAC and plumbing shop right here in Paducah. Started our business in 2013 as a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. We've been using the paid work experience program since 2020. I believe we've had a couple of people come in, we've trained them, and they've moved on to, unfortunately, we lost one of them. He took a better opportunity in California. We really miss him. But we've had a great experience, and I think it's really important to teach the youth to learn a trade.
So I'm gonna start with you, Rachel. So Rachel, I'm gonna start with you, okay? What was your workforce challenge?
During the beginning of the pandemic, I believe our challenge was finding skilled trade workers to fill a need. We got very busy at the height of the pandemic. Construction, I feel like, never really slowed down. But we, unfortunately, there has been a huge emphasis on getting kids into college, and I feel like the trades have kind of been left behind. So we've had a challenge in getting people interested in doing, HVAC, plumbing, sheet metal. So I had to really try to get creative and regroup and think, what can we do to fill this hole? And I got connected with these programs with the mindset, let's train the younger workforce coming in instead of focusing on finding people that are already working somewhere. Because if we don't get ahead, and train some of these people, we're never going to be able to fill the void of the next generation.
Ironically, Rachel and I had a conversation at the very beginning of the pandemic that set the conversation I had with every single employer afterwards. She asked a lot of great questions. It was a really great conversation. Like I said, I've used it many times. I have no idea if she remembers it. But I knew that, because one of the questions she was saying was, all these people are laid off. Why can't we recruit any? And so the state of Kentucky had just released a dashboard that told us the industries and the people who were being laid off, not names, but demographic cohorts. And so I showed her who was being laid off in McCracken County. And I said, the reason why you can't find workers is because they're not available. The people that you're trying to hire are already employed. So we had a great conversation. I still use bits from that conversation when I'm talking with an employer, because when they call, they're often frustrated and just need help trying to figure out how to solve the problem. So I appreciate that very much, Rachel. Chris, what was your workforce challenge?
My workforce challenge is similar to what Rachel was saying, is that I need to, nobody grows up thinking, hey, I will work at a Caterpillar bulldozer junkyard when I grow up. It's just not something, now we have a lot of fun playing with the Tonka trucks out in the dirt, so little and such. So we get to work on the real things now. But, a lot of times people, I need somebody because, and actually one of the things that Marion helped me with recently, I realized I was underpaying my guys in the shop on dismantling the machines. And so in the last month, I've bumped everyone's wages up significantly so that, we're paying them what they're worth. If they go out and try to find another job doing something similar, it's going to be equivalent to that. And so, but when I was trying to find someone new to hire, the challenge is, where do you find those people? Because I need someone who has mechanical aptitude and a good work ethic. And it's hard to find folks who do that naturally at this point. And so it's been, we've got an OJT right now, I think. And so it's like through September, I believe, that half of his pay is being paid by Marianne, and then has to be paid by me long term. And so I know one of the things that I wanted you guys to hear this morning is, before you're ready to hire anybody, call Marianne, just 100%. Because, it's like truly on my onboarding of someone new, I know to contact her, because I missed out on some additional funds 2 employees ago because I forgot to call her until after the fact.
Good morning again. So I work for the Housing Authority of Paducah, which is a nonprofit low-income housing unit. So my challenges were completely different from you all. So Before COVID, it was hard getting anyone with competing wages, nonprofit, relying on government subsidies that generate our revenue, and our main clients or customers are low-income individuals. So then fast forward to March of 2020, COVID hits, and then in May of 2020, the government issued a national eviction moratorium. And for us, that meant that we can't evict anyone for non-payment. For our clients, that translated, oh, don't pay rent until the eviction moratorium is lifted. So our revenue is generated by the one revenue we get, two, by the amount of vacancies. So if a unit is vacant, we don't get subsidies. Currently, we have 100 vacancies. So if we're not getting revenue, we don't have the subsidies for the vacant units. How do we hire the people to fill the units or clean the units to get people in there to generate income? How do you pull someone in that's going to stay for $10, $12, whatever your budget can afford, when they can go to McDonald's and make 13, whatever it is an hour. So thank God for the Workforce Board and Paducah Area District and Career Center and being able to tap into the WIOA funding. So since 2020, we've utilized 5 individuals, one teammate, I like to call them, didn't quite stick with us as long as we intended. However, that person has gone on to secure long-term employment with the company. So we used, I guess it was the COVID grant initially, and that was 2,080 hours, which is the equivalent of 1 year's salary for an employee full-time. And then we had 2 other great workouts, teammates of the ending of the WIOA. It wasn't quite as long, but again, one in particular, again, because of this program and the challenges, I was able to rethink my strategies as the HR director, kind of restructuring the way I think, the way I recruit. And so it was one individual who was looking for an admin assistant to assist our property manager. So usually, you get these job descriptions, they need to have, they must have, yada, yada, yada. So we revamped that because it's the training. I just basically need someone who can come in and build aptitude, someone who has a passion for what they do, because I work with a unique group of individuals. Our clientele come with a broad range of backgrounds and challenges, so you have to be up for the task. Yes, we can't pay you on paper your value that you're going to be, but if you're passionate about it, I think they kind of balance it out. So this individual wasn't even going to apply, but thank God that she did. Come to find out, she was a recipient, or she lived in public housing. She graduated up to being on the board, so she got it. She understood empathy and sympathy. This is stuff you can't teach. So she's now a resident resident opportunity self-sufficiency coordinator. And she was integral because she helped provide the research that was needed to secure funding for her position to become full-time for at least 3 years at a full-time rate. So grateful for the opportunity, again, for the WIOA is changing our trajectory and helping us get out of this hole that we're in.
So with LaToya's group, we were able, during the COVID grant, we received a National Dislocated Worker Grant, and it hired individuals who had been laid off because of COVID. If they were drawing unemployment insurance, then we could place them in a paid work experience as long as it was doing humanitarian or relief recovery work. And that specific grant provides 2,080 hours worth of employment. So we were able to employ several people in the community who did a lot of different humanitarian work. I'm so glad for that rain. We placed folks at her place, and they were hired at the end of that contract. We had them at several different locations in the community, and we were so glad to be able to see that happen. Not everyone stayed with the place where they went, but they always moved on to other employment that was secure for them, and it worked out really well. I love those National Dislocated Worker Grants because of what we get to do. We've gone through several disasters that we've done this with, starting with the ice storm, and then floods, and then. Typically what we do with these grants is we put extra people to work with the county and the county road department or city street departments. And so with the COVID grant, we were given that opportunity to do something different. Excuse me so much. And we did. And it was really successful, and we loved that grant. So the next question, okay, is, I think we've already answered it. How did the Workforce Board become involved You know, we networked, we found each other. The next question, would you do this project again?
It's going to be an unequivocal yes. And to just be transparent, so the recovery allowed it more hours and longer time to build skills and aptitude. We are now working on a 9 weeks paid training experience, where to be eligible, like Ms. Marianne mentioned, K-TAP, SNAP, unemployed, underemployed. It has been a little bit more challenging to get someone in there and to, build aptitude. But the thing to keep in the back of your mind is that even if you just help one individual, it's worth it. And if they have a good experience, that's going to be better than me putting out a position description or a job vacancy to attract, because if they telling someone that their experience was good and that we work with them despite the fact that they came in late or the child care fell through or whatever the reason is, that speaks volumes. So it's not going to be easy, but I will say it will be worth it.
Chris, would you do it again?
Of course, that's why I'm here. This is, you guys preaching the choir right now. But no, just one of those things. I would definitely do it again. Actually, I'm doing it right now. I've got Tanner hired him. He just recently moved to the West Kentucky area from the Missouri area, and has zero experience in my industry. However, has good mechanical aptitude. That's a God-given gift. Either you have it or you don't. There's nothing you can do or train to if you don't have that. And but no, so we're doing that right now. And then, like I was saying earlier, my advice, before you want to hire somebody, talk to Marianne. So just to check the programs that are out there. And yeah, we plan on continuing doing this as long as she'll let us do it. So I mean, it'd be foolish not to. Now, everyone that comes to the door isn't going to be eligible for all the programs. That's one of the things. So I think if I understand correctly, most of the time that someone needs to be underemployed or not employed in order to be eligible for the program. So if someone's already working somewhere else and you want to hire them, it may not work for you. However, it comes back to one of the whys of buying the business. So most of the people I see in the room, I know many of you guys here, so thank you for coming, but you guys are job creators. Not everybody has that skill set to actually, hey, I have a business idea, here's the problem I'm solving, I need to hire someone to make that happen. And so the more jobs that we create in our community, the better it's going to be for everyone in the community going forward. And so as we continue to do that, it's all about making the pie bigger for our local economy and help everybody out. That's just part of why we do this. So yeah, 100% I'll continue doing this.
We are getting ready to start another hiring campaign, so I am definitely going to take advantage of the program and use it again to, help. Like I said before, my focus kind of got creative during the pandemic on how can I use some of the younger people who may not have mechanical job skills. I mean, maybe, some of our best workers that we got during the pandemic came from the food industry. And now we've got one of them that we're training to be a sheet metal foreman. So, giving people a chance when they may not have the skill set that you're looking for, but they can learn. So, we had great success come out of, the youth workforce programs where they did paid experience and worked with us. I would do it again 100% because even if they cannot continue employment with me, maybe they'll continue their employment with some of you guys and be a productive member of our community and make it better for everyone else.
So Rachel is actually utilizing a subcontractor for the workforce program. We receive dollars to serve dislocated workers, and that's individuals who draw unemployment insurance, who know they lost their job through no fault of their own. And we also receive funding to deal with, to work with individuals who are low income, underemployed, unemployed, receiving public assistance. And then we also receive a special pot of money to serve youth who are ages 18 to 24 who need extra help to get into the labor force. And so we contract those funds with the 3 community colleges to serve that population. Who else better to serve 18 to 24-year-olds? So West Kentucky Community Technical College has the program here called Team Launch. Lisa Smith is their program coordinator, and so she works with those youth. We talk on a regular basis, daily basis, text, whatever, we're constant touch. Because like with Rachel, I knew that there weren't any dislocated workers I could provide to her, but I knew Anissa probably had youth that we could place into employment. So we look for those opportunities to work together. So now let's spend the next few minutes answering your questions. Phyllis.
Thank you, Mary Ann. And thank everyone up there for your comments, I appreciate it. Would each employee that you hire, would you have to provide insurance? And would it be medical or full package? I do have been suffering from allergies today.
We all feel your pain. So with paid work experience, they are our employee, and they are considered a contract laborer. They will not be able to file for unemployment insurance at the end of their hours because they are a contract. And because they're contract, we can't provide benefits, okay? One of the things that we've discovered is that if they are a resident of the Housing Authority, the wages they earn through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act does not count against them and raise their rent. So their residents are prime target population for a paid work experience, okay? For on-the-job training, yes, you have to provide benefits. And most importantly, you have to provide health insurance, which is always a difficult challenge for small employers, but we talk our way through that, okay? I try to do whatever I can to help that small employer access these funds the way I do with large industries, okay?
Access funds for the insurance.
I know, sorry.
You said access funds to pay for the insurance premiums.
No, I don't provide them access to funds, but we talk about what that looks like. And I can talk to companies on an individual basis, okay? Any other questions? Katie, I know you got a question, or a testimony. That's the best question.
I don't know about that. So I utilized Mary Ann's program. I met her here having lunch at some kind of tent thing that we were doing in the parking lot.
We had a job fair.
We had a job fair. So that's what we were doing. We had a job fair and I met Mary Ann and we kind of clicked, just personally, just started talking. And I always need to find good help to help me with a lot of different things. At this time, I was looking for somebody that I could train to do some insurance billing as an assistant for that. And so she was like giving me the rundown on all the different programs, and we actually utilized the similar one that Latoya did for a dislocated worker due to COVID. So it was a larger facility in town that was downsizing because they had to. And they had someone who had medical office experience, but not insurance billing specifically. So we brought her on and trained her. And she's not with us still, but she did find permanent employment that suited her. And so it was definitely a fantastic program for her and for us to learn. Because if you're a small business, sometimes you have to learn things, as you go. As far as like finding the right fit, training somebody to do a totally new thing, because that's a part of that program to do that. So I would definitely do it again, and probably will. So if you have any questions, and Mary Ann's just phenomenal. So she knows a lot.
I understand how complicated all these different terms are and how difficult it can be. And, I try to make it really simple, but when I start talking about funding streams and requirements and different things. It's really difficult, especially during COVID when you couldn't go near anybody. You couldn't be near anybody, you couldn't, you try to do things over Zoom, and it's a lot to absorb. I try to make it as easy as possible, so.
What's your question?
Hi, my name is Esther Scott, and I work specifically with individuals who have a disability. And I know a lot of the conversations about dislocated workers. My students typically need repetitive work. So like when COVID happened, it was a struggle for a lot of my students because they are routine, and their routine was, it was disrupted. So my question is, do you have programs, or are there specific jobs where they are targeted for disabled students?
How old are your students?
14 to 21.
What program are you with?
My business, I found.
You have your own business? That's where I know you, I've seen your card. So, yes, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act oversees vocational rehabilitation, including Office of the Blind, adult education, adult ed, career services, which is the unemployment office, that we're not supposed to call the unemployment office, we're supposed to call the Kentucky Career Center. Veteran services, there's a whole plethora of programs that fall under that. I always look for opportunities for individuals who are disabled or whatever is going on in order to help them find employment, okay? Repetitive motion, repetitive work is very important to a lot of employers, okay? Because you can teach that skill and they do it all day long. It's good for that client, it's good for that employer. So yes, okay, if they are disabled, they qualify for this program equally as anyone else. But we just need to make sure that they're low income or drawing unemployment insurance. Does that make sense? Anyone else? You've already told me the beginning. Do you want to say anything? No, I could. Awesome.
Okay.
My name is Cara Geiger. I'm the HR manager at Worthington Industries, and Mary Ann has helped me. Well, I'm new to the area. I moved here with the company about 5 years ago, so I knew nobody. It used to be Amtrol. The company's been here for, 40 years, and nobody knew who we were. So I needed a lot of help getting our name out in the community, people knowing who we are, what we do, why we do it. And Mary Ann's connected me with so many people. We've taken advantage of the Bluegrass Training Grant, which gives us $75,000 a year for our training that we do as a tax credit. Probably had 5 or 6 people at least go through the on-the-job training. I'm very bad at contacting her in advance. I'm gonna put it on my onboarding checklist. Thank you for telling me to do that. But yeah, we had. I know the one program you said pays up to $19 an hour, but we had an engineer that was displaced from Briggs and Stratton. We had to pay him $100,000 a year, and Mary Ann paid half of his salary for us, for the 6 months. So, so was that someone I'm not supposed to share that?
No.
Okay.
It's fine. There's always a caveat.
Yeah. So the amount of money that we've gotten from these programs has been too high to count, probably in several $100,000 that we've been able to take advantage of all these different programs that Mary Ann, and not only for the grants, but if I need help with understanding our wages or help finding employees, like we do repetitive work, come talk to me. So she's just an excellent resource when it comes to all those different things that I'm still learning how to get a hold of.
So the reason why I was able to pay 50% of the wage for that one engineer is because he was a trade-affected worker. He lost his job because of NAFTA. That is an entitlement program. So with NAFTA dislocated workers, we have to provide the 50% reimbursement. So that's what we do with him. So One of the things that we've been able to do that has helped across several employers is, and Kara has created some of this work. She'll call and ask a question. How much does a plant pay for their third shift workers? Who are we competing against and what was their hourly rate? Are we competitive? And she needed to know in less than a week. So because I've done this for 20 years, and I know many of the HR managers, I put together a quick survey, and come to find out, they all wanted to know that answer. And so we did a quick survey that we have used time and time again in terms of understanding the number of shifts each plant operates, who has a swing shift, who has a traditional first, second, third, what are the hourly rates, who competes against who. And we actually were able then to look, and I share this information back with anybody with the plants that participated. I did not associate names with the plants, but it was easy to figure out union plants paid this, non-union plants paid that, and you could kind of figure out where the cohorts were. And so that way we could start kind of grouping plants that did similar skills and paid similar wages, and they could stop this, well, I'm gonna pay an extra quarter more. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Really dug in and started working on what the wages need to be for that position based on that wage information and what was available in the workforce. And so now, if I am involved in a site selection meeting upstairs with economic development and they ask me who pays the highest wages, I know. It's not something that's, I've had to go to a website and get. I can tell them, but I can also describe, that may be a unionized facility. If you're an assembly operation, these are the employers you're working at, this is their hours. That kind of information means a lot. She asks a lot of smart questions. Yes, ma'am.
So if you're a small business owner who creates jobs and has people, or need to add people to your team for whatever reason, at what point in the process, or what mistakes do you see small business owners like? Do you see them waiting too long to reach out to you? Or at what point in the process should that happen?
What happens most with small businesses is, despite my effort to make sure I'm running along beside you in your recruitment process, waiting for you to give me that name and phone number of the individual you want to see if they're eligible for our program. More times than not, I get forgotten in the process of onboarding that employee. I have to know and do eligibility before they start work, or I can't offer the benefit. And it's because the rubric the Department of Labor uses is pre-employment wages and post-service wages. So that's the reason why Chris now has me on his checklist. It's that, because the thing is, I'm working with a lot of employers at the same time. I try my best to keep up with everybody. But if they forget me and there's an extra few days, we miss that opportunity. That is the number one challenge.
Very good. So for me, in my hiring process, when I'm about ready to make an offer to somebody, I will contact Mary Ann. So because generally, I think with Tanner, I think it took about almost a week-ish or so. So if you can wait for their start date for a week, when you're about ready to make it, like, hey, you've gone the interview process, you never did, hey, I think this is the person I want to make an offer to. Then I'm reaching out to Mary Ann. And then at that point, you've already seen on the application what they're making ahead of time or whatnot, so you have a rough idea of whether or not that person is or is not going to be eligible, although I didn't realize NAFTA was even an option on that. So, so just make a week before you're ready to make the offer, call Mary Ann and she'll get back to you. I think you're able to tell me within 24 hours if he was eligible or not, and they kind of went from there.
And that time frame gets lessened if the applicant actually knows that they're going to get a phone call from a career coach. If we're cold calling them, they don't understand. And for the client, it's hard for them to see that they're getting anything for giving us a couple of days. And we've got to get their driver's license, their social security card. We ask them information about the last 6 months of their employment. They need to do a career assessment to make sure they're ready for employment. You know, they feel burdened after receiving that job, so that way you can get a wage reimbursement. Because they can't see that they're getting that job and they're getting that training, and the funding that you're receiving is going to help them long term. So that funding is considered general ledger accounts receivable, okay? Because you are invoicing us for the number of hours worked. So you can utilize that money to invest in additional training. We work really closely with West Kentucky Community Technical College's Workforce Solution, Kevin O'Neill's bunch, with Chase Everett, and they offer incumbent worker services. So for Worthington, you all invested right before the pandemic, you were going to invest in welding training for your employees. Our funds that they received back, I don't care. I said, human resources is never a net positive division of a company. You make sure you keep control of that funding so that way you can do those things. Because for the very first time, you had funding to help with this stuff. So it all kind of works out together. We all work together to try to figure out how we can serve that employer. You know, I never want to send 40 people knocking on your door telling them, hi, I'm from the government, I've got a great program, let me help you. But if I see that there's something that another program can do better than what I can, I make sure that happens. Last questions. Anyone else? If I had brought business cards this morning, does the cat have them? The cat has them, yes. He really does. Oh. So my name is Mary Ann Medlock. My email address is Mary Ann, MaryAnne dot Medlock, MEDLOCK at ky.gov. My phone number, and I answer every phone call. Or I send you a message, can I call you later? It's 270-519-7662. I want to thank my esteemed panel here this morning. Without the employers that we work with, we can't do what we do. So I want to thank you for that. One of the things that I truly believe, and some of you all in the room have heard this 1,000 times. John F. Kennedy said, a rising tide lifts all boats. A friend of mine a couple of years ago said, no, that's not quite right. First of all, you have to have a boat. But most importantly, a rising tide only lifts seaworthy boats. That's what we're trying to do. And with you, small businesses, large corporations, we're wanting to build seaworthy boats. So I want to thank our sponsors, FMB and Lundberg Imaging, and the Chamber for having us this morning. If you all need me, you know where to find me. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Before you all go, I do want to put in a couple of plugs. Please, if you have not already, register for the other 4 seminars that are coming up. We have a handout on the table in the back that tells you about all those topics, dates, and times if you want to pick that up. We also have a handout about our small business cohort program that's going to be starting on June 1. If you want to learn more about that, feel free to ask me after this session or ask Sandra. There's actually a couple of mentors here today, Katie Engler and Chris Hill. They mentor the participants in the cohort program. They'd be happy to answer questions about that too. We have Chris Wooldridge. He's the director of the Murray State University Center for Economic and Entrepreneurial Development here with us today. He's doing 3 small business consultations. I have some that are signed up for appointments, but I have some open appointments left. So if you would like to avoid the rain and stick around for one of those appointments, please see me after. Thank you all so much for coming. And thank you to FNB Bank and Lundberg Medical for being our sponsors of these seminars.